call the town public committee meeting Wednesday, March 25th, 2026 to order.
Councilman Haddock. Councilman Brown.
Present.
Councilman Dennis. Councilwoman Faison.
Present.
Councilman Ogle.
Present.
Mayor Pilat.
Present. Would everyone please silence their phone? Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Faison.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This point is the public comment period. Members of the audience will have 3 minutes to make a statement or express a concern to the council. Is anyone here to, yes ma'am, come up, introduce yourself and your address, please.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Christina Ladd. I live in Defunta Harbor, W5, right on the river. And this is my partner, Neely Cathcart. We are part of Two for the Show Vintage LLC. I am a lifelong, she's obviously my new young partner, lifelong lover of vintage clothing, upscale vintage clothing. And we actually found each other online a year ago when Neely was posting, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could restore the old Madisonville picture show into this 40s vibe, great velvet booths and vintage clothing and productions and so on. So that's how we initially met, was our love of everything old. And flash forward, Neely has been doing this business now for 3 years? 3 years, all through social media marketing. That's that generation where everything's about collaborating with the TikTok and the Facebook. And so the majority of our business is online. But our vision is to now have a boutique, and we would love for it to be in downtown Madisonville. And so what we were hoping you guys will allow us to do is to move into the old bakery on Warden Street. I have some renderings I can show you. It's going to be like a 1940s picture show vibe as far as how the actual building itself will look. Our landlord is completely on board, as are the neighbors. Mr. Tony at Madisonville Jewelers and Miss Heidi at the Design Shop. Everybody seems to be very excited about the idea that it's going to be a vintage type of business. Now, with regards to your concerns that might come up in planning and zoning, Ms. Teacher has been kind enough to coach me, and I wanted to let you know that I think I may have that resolved too, hopefully. It's a little bit less than 1,000 square feet. And I know you all know that this building has been vacant now since the baker. So it's been about 3 or 4 years, I'm going to say maybe longer, since it's been occupied. The landlord has completely renovated it and is in the process of finishing the things that we've discussed. And he has agreed to allow us to park our personal vehicles, when Neely and I are at the shop, in the lot directly adjacent to the building, which he also owns, thereby leaving the 2 spots designated for the storefront completely open. I've also, this afternoon, had a nice discussion with Miss Linda, who is the operational manager for Chris Combs' construction company, who is also our neighbor, in the historic home across the street from us. And they too, I said that if need be, they'd be willing to work out an arrangement for us to be able to have 2 or 3 spots on the Morgan Street side of their property in order to accommodate any concerns that the council and the mayor's office might have about, operational issues in traffic and parking. So that's why I'm here. We're excited, and we really hope that we will have your cooperation and help in getting this up and running.
Thank you very much for coming. Certainly, it's exciting to see that your desires and what you plan to do. We do, and we can discuss, or at least have some input there, because we've got existing buildings, yours being one, the one you want the least, the old movie theater that is just around the corner from you.
Yes, sir.
What's come to my attention also,
Yes.
and what we know is that the Ace Hardware is going to be vacant. So the concern here for the council and for myself is, how are we going to deal with the lack of parking on the premises for buildings that are not occupied? My real concern there is that I don't want to see the buildings being vacant. I really want them to be occupied. So are we going to deal with the buildings, the current buildings, any different than we would a new building being built? And that would be something for the council to consider. Because under the ordinance, it's required that you have off-street parking for well, I think it's 250, one vehicle for every 250 feet. I'm not sure of that, but I think that's it. So we have existing buildings, and I hope we can come to an agreement that for the existing buildings, maybe we make some compromise for that.
Absolutely. And I might add, I don't want to speak for him, but I did meet the new owner of the theater. His name is Peyton. He and his father own the house leveling business in town, and they own the property directly across the street from the theater. And he's very committed to restoring the building, which I was thrilled to hear. And his vision for it, again, I don't want to speak for him, but his vision, I believe, is to also have it be a vintage-inspired sustainability type of, building for vendors to, coin collectors, vinyl records. I mean, my dream would be that, you're walking back in time in the 40s.
Yeah.
In downtown Madisonville, in these quaint shops. That would be my vision.
Very exciting.
I will also like to ask, with regards to the parking dilemma that you all face, there is a green space, if I'm not mistaken, that is by the dentist's office, right? So you've got the pharmacy and you've got the fluoride dentistry, and there's some green space there. Is that owned by the dentist? Is that owned by the town?
No.
Because to me, that could be an ideal place to put 4 or 5 spots similarly to what you have down across from the existing Ace Hardware location. Mm-hmm. Long-term, I'm just thinking long-term, because it's more than just 2 for the Show vintage. Now you've got the theater reviving itself, and I'm assuming they're going to find a wonderful tenant for the old Ace Hardware location.
So I did just look it up. The green space that you're referring to in front of the parking, it belongs to Dr. Ferrara.
Right, but I mean, I can't imagine Dr. Ferrara would not be open to doing something, especially when his business is a day, certain hours. It's just a suggestion, but thank you for, I didn't know if it was privately owned or.
Well, so thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
And it is something that I'm glad that you are coming. When I found out today, I said, well, great, it'll give us an opportunity to either discuss it tonight or discuss it at our next meeting anyway.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for coming.
And anyone else have any questions or concerns?
Well, where does she go from here? We don't have Al anymore, so what's the next step for her?
Well, planning and zoning would be, because I don't think you don't have any off-street parking today, do you?
Well, as far as I know, sir, the 2 spots directly in front of the building are part of the property, not.
No, that's town property.
Okay.
The sidewalk runs right in front of the
Well,
building.
that's true, yes.
Yeah.
Then the answer would be no, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I guess, I don't know how it was handled when the bakery was there.
Yeah, it was pretty much accepted as an existing building.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're not anticipating a large amount of traffic. street spaces around Morgan Street, street side spaces would be more than adequate,
Well, and depending on the council's opinion, I mean, as dealing with existing buildings in the commercial area, that certainly could be satisfactory.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
we would hope that you would take a look at that historic significance of the building itself.
Yes.
We want the building to be filled. I mean, just like Jean said, we also just have to figure out a way to apply rules evenly. And so I think it's an interesting idea, making exceptions for existing buildings. We just have to keep in mind that some buildings are larger than others and may, for example, your business will likely have fewer cars than the bakery did when it was during its business hours.
I would assume so.
I'm never going to a boutique and see more than 4 or 5 people unless maybe like Columbia Street Mercantile, but that is an exception to the rule in a boutique.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I don't imagine seeing a lot of people in a boutique at once.
Yes.
I think that the demand for parking at Morgan Street Baker was much higher volume than what we would see in a business like yours.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I think that we all need to consider and discuss how we structure those exceptions and if it's dependent upon the type of business and if that's allowed for us to do. I'm assuming it would be, but I don't know.
I appreciate that comment because in collaborating with Tony, who, was the owner of Madisonville Jewelers, I don't expect that we would have any more or less traffic than what he gets, and he gets a couple of cars a day in and out of there. So, thank you for that.
So at this point, she would be going to the Planning and Zoning Commission and requesting a variance because she doesn't have a parking?
Yeah, I would think so, yes. Yes, sir.
May I?
Sure. Please identify yourself.
Okay, my name's Bart Ladd. I'm her husband. So I'm going to be a 10% owner in this, a little bit more financially. Okay. So anyhow, you bring up a good point about historic buildings and everything, and I'm not really sure. I tried to look at the zoning ordinances, and they're not very specific, I guess. Give you some thoughts of how to handle it. I know in other towns and other states that I've been involved in. I was a pilot with Delta Airlines until I retired, so I've been moving around a little bit. And they grandfathered existing buildings in with, maybe something flexible. You're talking about the flexibility. But as far as this particular business, if we had 2 people in there at once, I'd be shocked. And if we had 2 people in there a day, I'd be very happy. So, yeah, that's something to think. It's a very unique, specific business, and it's not something that would be driving a lot of traffic. Just something, some little bit to consider, and be happy to answer any kind of questions.
Sure.
or whatever.
No, listen, I'm sure I'm sure other towns face these types of
Right, yeah.
of challenges.
Right.
And with the existing buildings,
Right.
there should be some exceptions, in my opinion, because we don't want the building to be
Yeah,
unoccupied.
you don't want to be bulldozed,
No,
and,
no. The challenge, I guess, when it came up, it first hit me was the number of questions and the people who have come to the town when the movie theater was for sale. And
Sure.
the restrictions that they were facing and what they were told, certainly, I would think the value of the theater with the restrictions affected that building and the amount that the owner got for it
Yeah.
because of those restrictions. And now, I think that with the existing buildings, that, in my opinion, we have to treat them, either we treat them by the ordinance, or we treat them as a grandfather situation, but they've got to be treated equally.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how we do it based on one-on-one, just as what's going in the building. That's just my thought, that how do we treat one different than the other?
I'm still eager and interested in the idea of also adding a commercial cottage zoning to our planning and zoning. And just looking at our zoning overall, I know that during one of our meetings in the last 6 months, there was one where I realized that some of the homes on the river on Mabel are zoned for commercial. They could be commercial, which is completely unrealistic, right? So what committee would be the one that would attack this and maybe get something started for considering this change as well as maybe a commercial cottage zone?
My thoughts is that's going to be planning and zoning. We're going to receive their recommendation, and then the council's going to have to make a decision how they treat it. There's no other committee to deal with that.
So I would need to, if I wanted to move forward with, say, the commercial cottage idea, I would need to come up with a plan and present it to planning and zoning. Is that correct? Is that the process for that?
Yeah, it doesn't exist in our ordinances today. There was a recommendation in our master plan for a commercial cottage area. It doesn't exist in our ordinances today. Yeah,
Okay, so they are the first pass for that.
could be, yes.
Okay.
Well, you mean for them?
Right, so would
I
they
would
be,
think it's planning and zoning, get a recommendation from them as they present what they want to do, and then we go from that recommendation to the council.
okay,
And the planning and zoning, they do meet only once a month, and they meet the first Monday of next month. First Wednesday, am I right? First Wednesday, I'm sorry. So if you want to approach the planning and zoning, certainly before the agenda goes out at the end of the week, we would need something immediately from just a written request that you would like to present your request to amend or get an exception to the parking requirements. And if you'll get it to Deidre in the morning, that would be great, because we do have a scheduled planning and zoning for next month. I'm sorry?
I said, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
The only other thing I would mention, just because I saw your picture of what you envisioned the front to look like, is we have on the agenda some changes to the sign ordinance, so that's something to consider as well.
And again, the changes aren't in commercial areas, are they? I think the commercial stayed pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was, temporary signage.
It does, we have discussed it at length. There's multiple businesses in a single building and dealing with that, how we
Yeah,
handle that.
so,
yeah, don't worry about the sign.
Don't worry about that sign, yeah.
so just, if you would, get something to the town clerk tomorrow morning, just a written request to be on the agenda.
Okay.
And with your request for an exception to the parking. I think that initiates the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
Any other questions or?
But that meeting will be next Wednesday, right, the
Next-
1st?
next-
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, next Wednesday, the same time, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
6 o'clock Wednesday afternoon.
Okay.
Okay?
Great. Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. With no other questions? No, okay. Moving into the agenda, the Finance Committee, Councilman Bounds, Councilman Haddocks, the first thing on the agenda, Councilman Ogle wanted to place the 1965 sales tax. You have anything to present?
I placed a printout of my email conversation with John Murray, the town's auditor, in front of everybody. I kind of updated you on the prior emails, but I wanted to direct your attention to the last one, which starts on the bottom of the second page, where John says, Jennifer Shea is the legal counsel for the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. I ran your questions by her. Regarding the first question, operating and maintaining is general in nature and would include salaries and benefits for employees working in a function covered by the tax dedication. So we have, of course, I'm talking about the 1965 sales tax, but those words are used in the sales tax, and this is coming from John as well as the legislative auditor. Regarding the second question, she noted that the ordinance did not define the term equipment. She recommended that we review the process verbal for the tax election and see if it matches the wording in the ordinance. I looked in our permanent file and did not have that document. Since there was no definition, she could not give an opinion. And I don't think there is a definition in the ordinance. I agree with Foley Waddell that a rededication may be needed. I know other municipalities have addressed the wording of tax elections during that period of time with a rededication. So I just want to point out to everyone, well, I wanted to share this. This is what I got from the auditor, and he actually reached out to the legislative auditor's legal counsel. I think it's as solid an answer as we can expect to get from anyone. We spoke previously that maybe salaries could not come out of that sales tax fund, and here they're saying if the employees are working in that function, it can. And the other thing is his pointing to a rededication. And so, this sales tax was in 1965, and during 1965, there were a few things that were different. One thing is I don't think we had 20,000 cars coming through Madisonville every day. I don't think we had a police force. I think we probably had one police officer, maybe. We had a brand new water system. We've been talking about the water system for a while. We literally had a brand new water system in 1965. A lot of that wording also refers to recreational facilities. Well, that was before Coquille came about. So to me, when I read this, when I look at what the auditor is telling us, it all points to the town's needs have changed, and it's time for us to look at that and consider a rededication. When I talked to Foley Waddell, the attorney there said they could get that on the November calendar election for us if we wanted to, if we were ready to go with what we wanted on there by July. So this is kind of all falling into place with where we find out about, if we're going to get, or how much assistance we might get for the water system. But this is the direction I would like to see the town go in. If we did put it on the election calendar and it failed, nothing would change. The existing tax would just stay there under the existing wording, and we would just continue to function as we have. But if we changed it, it would give us perhaps a little more flexibility to actually address some of the more pressing needs that we have today that were not around in 1965.
Well, I'm going to address a couple of things that you said here. One is that I would have appreciated you sending this in so that it could have been sent to all of the council and myself prior to the meeting, so we could have had this to review. What you handed out. That is a standard procedure, and I would ask you to continue to do that in the future if you have something you want to discuss. Second is that as far as the tax, 1965 tax being applied to salaries, it already is. It's applied to salaries and the to the salaries of the people doing the maintenance and the street cleaning and the grass cutting. So salaries in the sales tax are in there already. And third is that you mentioned recreation. Recreation is more than baseball and football. It's the riverfront, it's the park, and it's the boat launch. You have other areas of recreation that it's being used for. So that's just three things that certainly you need to understand that the sales tax is being applied to. Myself, I don't think putting the funds that are used for the things that it's dedicated for into one pot would be the right direction to go in.
Jennifer Shea is actually who I spoke to, and she's the one that said, hey, you would probably want to ask the Attorney General for their opinion on the definition of equipment. I don't know what my opinion would be on putting this on a rededication without knowing what we would want to change. I wouldn't be in favor of supporting or saying no to a rededication unless I knew what the changes were. I knew that we were already putting salaries in that fund. I don't know how much of the salaries are in the fund, but I know that there are some salaries that are coming from that specific tax. I think that this is something that we would consider once we know our funding, which I think we will know in June. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you will.
In June, okay. If we get to June and we suddenly only get 49% instead of the 100%, this is something that I think is worth discussing and hearing out. But again, I've said this before, we have a surplus in our utilities fund that we can pull from, but I don't even know that we would need to touch this. While I do think that I would like to consider a new way or a better way for us to fund the police department, I think that's a separate issue. And I'm just not certain how I would feel about this until I know more about our funding for the water. And where we fall with how we're going to do it and keep the burden as minimal as possible on the residents.
Anything? No other discussion? We'll move to operations and maintenance. Operation and maintenance is Councilman Ogle and Councilman Dennis. First thing on the agenda is sign ordinance amendment. The sign ordinance amendment, I just want to address one change that was made since it was introduced, and I'll direct you to page 2, if you would. Page 2 at the page 2, section E, which is in the temporary signs. After review, we did, Mr. Downer noted that if you look at E, miscellaneous signs, it was placed in error just on the temporary signs. The change was made to put E, take E out. Let's see now, is that, I've got the same thing, Deidre? Yeah, no, this is not right. This is not right. We'll get that to you tomorrow, but let me tell you what we did. The E under number 1 was the miscellaneous signs is put below as the number 3 under signs, so that it applied to all signs, not just the temporary signs. It applies to all signs. And number 3, as it exists, is number 4. So there was just one small change, and that the miscellaneous just applies to all signs. And under miscellaneous, it's no sign shall have flashing, blinking, or variable lights. No sign shall be erected or displayed in a public right-of-way. So that would be number 3, and the existing number 3 would be number 4. So that's the only change there. Is there any further discussion on this, did you note that? I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but that was changed, and you just must have picked up the wrong one. Any further discussion?
Is there any allowance? We talked about the short-term rentals having the name of the building, the house
Yes.
that's in here?
Yes, that's in, that's actually,
There's no prohibition against it, let me put it that way. You're allowed to have a sign Okay, it's whatever the size is, 6 inches by
Now,
whatever.
but where was it inserted? And when we inserted that, that changed to incorporate short-term rentals into this.
Right.
There was a section that we just discussed today, you and I, and I'm not sure where.
There's a second section here. There's a second section that's for short-term rentals. Is it under that, or is it?
No. No, it's under this section that we're talking about. It says temporary sign.
Well, actually, in
See it, it's number 2. Signs for permitted uses as set forth in paragraphs B, 3, 4, 5, and 6 above. All signs in these categories of permitted uses shall not exceed 6 by 24 inches in size.
Right. Right. So that's page 2.
but yes, that was inserted to include short-term rental.
And
Are we doing the same thing here with B, subsection 1, subsection D, and miscellaneous being moved to 4?
That's the one that we were talking about.
Also, let's see this one. Now, the next one. Signs under 3688, is that existing things?
It should be in all other
It
sections.
should be all other sections
It
that
should be
require.
at the end of it.
Right, so on page.
Yeah, I understand.
Can't do that. Signs, temporary signs, we have the same subsection D, 1 and 2, miscellaneous, exactly changed as well.
I think that's only because we had the additional 2 and then 4.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, in all other, the neighborhood business, the commercial, everything else, it's at the end of the paragraph pertaining to all signs in that area.
That's
So it's
right.
more consistency then.
That's right. But it only applies to the residential, okay? Because that residential doesn't carry over.
Just a quick question, moving forward, when we do these changes, would it be feasible to have a strike through of the old language and the new language being added in red?
Yeah, we did that already.
Right, but on here, right? So we're having,
Well, one,
we're having this
We
discussion.
did do it.
yeah, yes, it was that way.
Okay.
Once it was introduced, and then to submit it to the paper and to advertise it, this is the submitted copy. Now, it's not complete because it does need to have that change in it.
Right.
But other than that, all we did is omit what we struck out and we inserted what we included in that.
While we're changing the ordinance, do we want to fix the parking size? You know, when I suggested changes to the multifamily, the parking size was 8 feet by 9 feet. I see it's the same here. We changed it to 8 feet by 19 feet. I'm guessing it was a typo when Unico did the work, but we changed it. Bottom of page 2. It's the very last line on page 2. On page 2. So that was 8 by 9 feet in the multifamily, and it's here as well.
Oh, what page, I'm sorry?
Page 2, the very last one.
Right at the beginning?
It's F, below where 4 will be on page 2. Parking minimum of 8 feet wide by 9
Yeah.
feet long.
Yeah,
And that's for residences, right?
And that was changed.
Yeah. Well, it was changed on our multifamily, but not here in the residential, and it probably should be. But 8 by 9 is, I don't think my suburban would fit in that.
Make that note, please. So, any other questions there? Okay, next thing on the agenda is water improvements, water lines, filters, et cetera. Councilman, you have,
Yeah, I gave this to everybody also. This is just, I took the email chain that I had, which all of you were included on, with Bea and with David regarding the water system. And I tried to separate out which questions they answered versus which questions they didn't answer, because as the mayor mentioned at our last meeting, if they're going to answer any more questions, they want to charge us for it. So the red here is, the black is just the question, and the red is what they had answered. So all the questions they answered, I put up here first. A couple of things I'll point out. I had asked them, what's the expected service life and what type of pipe would they be using for the new water line along Johnson Street in Old Ponchatoula? They said it was PVC, C900, and HDPE. They did not answer what the life was, so I just went looking for it. I got from 50 to 100 years, so I put that in there myself. Probably the two biggest questions that remain to me are, one is the well that currently has clean water coming out of it, the Pine Street well. When John Brewster was here, he had suggested that maybe we rehabilitate that well instead of drilling a new well. So I have a couple of questions that are related to that. Specifically, the new plan as modeled by Owen and White would require that well to produce 450 gallons per minute. It's currently about 200, I think. So I asked, is there any way possible with any kind of rehab that we could actually get to that level? I think probably not, but that was the question that I asked.
that's number 9? Am I correct?
Yeah, right, no.
Okay.
And the other big question that's kind of looming out there as we look at this whole system recommendation is the water tower. So John had also given us a quick quote that suggested that perhaps a ground level storage would be much less expensive than an elevated water tower. Nick Keith was here last week, last meeting, or maybe the meeting before, and he did a good job of explaining to everyone what the benefits are of an elevated water tower. But I do think it's worth looking at if there's that big of a difference in price and a big difference in maintenance cost, that it's something that we ought to consider. The water tower, as I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, it's a 100 to 150-year asset. The one that I visited in the city of Covington was built in 1950-something. It literally looked brand new. So it's something we're going to have for a while. The other part of that question is that the 200,000 gallon that they were suggesting for the water tank only brings us up to what we need right now. And would it make sense to consider a larger tank, even if it was maybe a ground level tank? So those are the two main questions. I'm bringing it here tonight to see if the rest of the council want to spend the $350 an hour to get answers to the rest of these questions that we have.
They mentioned something when they presented, one of the groups, about if they could even do a ground level tank. What do you recall what that was? There was questions as to whether it could be approved and even done.
They mentioned in the report that we have an existing 65,000 gallon tank, and because some of it is built below ground, that Louisiana Department of Health might have a problem with that.
With us doing a ground level tank. There was some kind of,
Specifically using that.
There was something that they had to get approval for to do a ground level tank. Is it made it sound like that wasn't going to be a very wise or viable solution. I just don't remember the details.
Well, he answered in some of the red lettering here, he did answer and say it was possible to do a ground level tank. Now, this is proposed right across the street from your house. And so that's another factor, I think, to take in. If it's 150 feet tall, what does it look like in the middle of town, right in the middle of a residential area?
That's a factor to take in, whether it's in front of my house, your house, or anybody's house, right? That's something that we do up here. We got to take those things into consideration. But there was,
With the hydraulics, that was what I remember, is them just being concerned about it having enough pressure. So, which, I mean, it says that in here, that we would need to consider hydraulic modeling to make sure it's enough. And I agree with this, that we need to consider the fact that we still have space to grow. I know we don't think about it, but down on Highway 22, going towards the outskirts of town, there's still a lot of empty land. You know, maybe not residential, but commercial could absolutely be added there, and commercial typically demands more water than residential. So I do think we need to take that into consideration, whether it's ground or an elevated. I'm indifferent as far as that goes. I just want what's going to work the best at this point.
I think at this point, we'd be remiss if we didn't give the answer. To be quite frank with you, I mean, we've spent this much time bringing in so many specialists, trying to get all the right answers. I think we would be shortened. We need to get the answers. I think we need to propose, a thorough list of whatever questions we have left need to be put together, agreed upon, and then forwarded and ask them to please respond, because it's, at this point, we're looking at spending, another $1,000? I think it's well worth the investment if we have an opportunity to save.
And Kristen, I think you make a very valid point that along Highway 22, right now we have 2 large tracts of land for sale. And you know, when, I'm sorry?
Buy it and give them parking.
Oh. You know, when and before the well is designed, you know, once we receive the funds to do it, but before the well is designed, well, I think those questions need to be asked. Is that well gonna be big enough to supply the needs for the future growth of the town? And it may
to
mean,
do with the storage, right? I think that had a whole lot to do with it.
and again, that there may be opportunity. I mean, I'm just speaking because you brought it up and I thought about it. There may be opportunity to buy some land and put that tower in that area that's not developed right now, if that's an option.
I would think this is going to be, as far as the ground level versus the elevator, I think it's going to be a simple answer. The reason I'm saying is every single person has mentioned elevated tower. There has to be a reason, a distinct reason. Knowing that we're a small town with limited funds, that someone would easily come and say, oh, no, ground level will do. There has to be, so I'm thinking it's not going to be a very complicated answer. I can't fathom it's going to take them 6 hours to a day to figure out that answer and give it to us. I don't think it's going to be an expensive thing to get answers to. And regardless, I think we owe it to ourselves and to the town. We've gone this far. Why would we not get that answer?
I have no problem doing it. I just need that direction, and we.
Yeah, to me, so the questions 9 through 15 are all things that we've discussed up here that I've shared with you via email, and they're the ones that they have not answered yet.
I mean, I don't see any issue with asking these questions, Louis. I think the only thing that I was confused about was the concern about introducing manganese because we're using pumps. I don't really understand that question. Where's that one at? Yeah, I don't really understand that question. Why would using pumps reintroduce more manganese or contaminants?
Right now, the way that the water comes out of the Pine Street well is it comes out as a free-flowing well. I think it's about 20 PSI, and it goes into that 65,000-gallon tank. And that was related to, we discussed, hey, could we put a pump on that and get more water out of it? Well, so, and if we put a pump on it, would we in some way change the quality of the water?
But the question 9 would possibly eliminate the answer of those others. Yeah, so the number 9 and then the difference between the ground level and the elevated tower. is the other question, correct? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I certainly,
Do we need to make a motion to ask this question? Yeah, I didn't think so. So, I mean, I think we all agree that these questions.
discussing it, that we,
Yeah.
if that's the areas we need to look at, we certainly can discuss that with them.
I
So I
think
don't
all
have
these are
any
good questions. I mean, I don't see any problem with
Yeah, I
asking
think
these.
none may, depending on how none's answered, we may not need answers for the other, some of the others.
And actually, I spoke with, I spoke with the company grinder that did the inspection, and the guy who did the inspection I spoke with has 47 years in the water business. And his recommendation was actually to plug and abandon the Pine Street well. And when I asked him specifically, why are you saying that? He said it was based on his experience in the age of the well and the 4-inch casing, that he doesn't think it's worth putting any more money into that well, basically is what he said.
Yeah, before the base Madisonville doubled capacity.
Yeah.
I think we need to rehab it.
Yeah, it would.
We might maybe get more PSI if we would give the people a challenge without the job.
Okay, well, we certainly can reach out to them with some extra questions. Anything else? No. Parks and Recreation, committee members, Councilman Haddix.
Mr. Mayor, this filters issue, can we just, you got it on here. Yeah, that's been suggested as a temporary thing. I don't know, Bruce had said that he looked at it a while back. Did you look again at that?
Yeah, a while back, and I did some research on it, and more particularly with regard to releases. In other words, distributing a filter and getting a release. That's a real problem, my research. I already knew it, but I did some research and it confirmed it.
Yeah. I guess my biggest concern right now, as we're going through the rate study, is that rate study has a 2-year look-back period when they're determining the rates. And while the major improvements that we're considering for the water system are not going to be factored into the rates, other than what depreciation comes with it, I'm thinking if we paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to put water filters on everybody's houses, that would. And that would, so in effect, what we would do is give everybody a water filter and then turn right around and charge them for it, and be stuck with those rates for the next 4 or 5 years. So that's my biggest concern about even making a decision about that right now.
I agree. I think between the potential rate increase and then the liability, I would love a whole home water filter, but I'll do it myself rather than that, so.
Yeah, I certainly agree with both of your opinions, and I'll just add one. I don't know how you could do that for one resident and not all residents.
Do we know of any community that's ever done it?
No. Actually, I was going to do a query, by the way, with AI, which is endorsed by the Louisiana Bar Association with certain restrictions. And in fact, they have legal seminars, okay, that teach how to do research, but never quote it to a court, okay? But I was going to do some research and ask them that question because depending how you query the question is going to be determine how good your answer is, typically. And I just didn't do it because I didn't think it was necessary, actually.
Any further discussion? Okay, now we'll move to Parks and Recreation. And under Parks and Recreation, we have boat launch parking. Councilwoman Faison presented and wanted it to just talk about it, so I'll turn this over to you.
Yeah, this is not something that has to be done. It was just something that myself and Chris worked on and thought would be interesting to offer. Again, free of charge, just like the setup at the pedestals on the riverfront. He quickly put together, you guys have the screenshots. I don't have the live link, but you can see it up here as well. A quick website where everybody could pull up, park, hop on the website, register, pay for it through the portal here. And then the police would actually have a live list of license plates that would be listed of who's paid for their permit and who has not. So you could either scan their license plate or put it in manually. It's pretty straightforward and simple. And that way, no one has to stop anywhere and pay for the permit. As an aside, but also in conjunction with this, I do want to point out that our permits are insanely cheap. So cheap that it's almost even silly to charge unless we're just going to raise it to where it could actually be put towards the maintenance. There are far worse boat launches, privately owned boat launches that charge $15 to $25 per launch. We're charging $25 for an entire year. I'm not saying that we need to make it expensive or unaffordable. I do think we should consider changing our price to something more commensurate with what is appropriate. We're a municipal-owned boat launch, so we're not a state-owned boat launch. I believe Manchac is. You might need to check me on that. And it's free, but it's state-owned, and they maintain it. We're a small municipality to continue maintaining a very large boat launch. I mean, it's got 2 slips. It's on the lake, which it takes a lot of damage. I'm not saying we need to charge something that will help or that will actually pay for the maintenance, but an appropriate amount to put towards the smaller maintenance, like replacing the gravel that's back there, the limestone that we have, having it graded, the smaller maintenance that we have to have done just from regular use. I think that's something that we should all maybe consider and follow up with at our next meeting. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
Chief, I'd like you to explain to us, or give us kind of your perspective, and Paul in the back. Paul probably spends more time down there than any officer we have. So what is the system, on the surface, I think this is amazing. We pull up, dang, I don't have a launch permit, I can buy it, I'm legal, I move on. How does that impact you, more importantly, the officers out there having to pull up and not see a sticker? I'm assuming right now you look for a sticker when you drive by. It's like a brake tag almost, right? Sure. So now if you don't see a sticker, you stop and you sit there manually entering.
Yeah, you're not going to hurt my feelings. If you feel like it's more laborious, just tell me.
I love this idea.
It was actually the parking of the vehicle to quote unquote pay for the launch. I think that's the issue there. That's not the concept of what we do. The concept
Parking.
we park it on our property to be able to do that, to be able to launch it, to actually pay for the launch itself.
Okay, so even over here across the bridge, the privately owned one, they're paying for parking technically, correct?
That's a whole different ballgame over there. I'm not familiar with that one. That's a state of launch. I know Greenville, right? They actually charge for their launch.
Right.
They actually own that launch.
So either way, we would just,
You don't charge for the launch, you charge for the launch.
okay.
Either way, my question would be, instead of pulling up and you don't see a sticker, now you got to manually enter or scan a license plate. What is that? How does that impact you? How does it impact Paul and all the other officers, right? I'm just curious to understand what that looks like from your perspective.
It would only be meant to make it easier. If it doesn't make it easier, we need to scrap it. It took 5 minutes.
No, I mean, basically, right now, what we do is just what you said. We ride and just look. I mean, sometimes there's 3 or 4 boat trailers, sometimes there's 30 or 40. There's a specific location they're supposed to put them on when they purchase the sticker. They purchased here at Route 22 gas and bait. We find a lot of that as far as you have to look it completely over because a lot of them don't put it where it's supposed to be on the front left side of the trunk of the trailer. We found them put them on a license plate, they put them on the boat, they put them on different parts of the trailer. And it's not a tremendous issue for us to get out and look. Okay, it's really not. It's pouring down rain, and be perfectly honest with you, we might be less active to jump out there and do it, but yeah, we write a fair amount of those, and a lot of them we got a sign down there specified that you have to have it. A lot of them claim they didn't see the sign or whatever the case was. So one time launch, they just moved here, they from out of town, we heard everything. But if they where they're supposed to be, it's really not a tremendous difficult issue for us. It's more of, I think, a tracking issue here of, you know, if you're a retired person, 65 or over, I understand it's free of charge, it doesn't matter. It just has to be a place where we can see it. And it sounds trivial, but if you got 30, 40 cars down and you're walking completely around a boat trailer trying to find the sign, it is challenging.
I was kind of waiting my turn there.
Yes, sir.
But you brought up something that's very, a real challenge. Go into a scanner, you wouldn't know a senior citizen. We give the permits to senior citizens.
So I would think if we do this program, I like it, at least on the surface, that's why I'm trying to dig into it.
Yes, sir.
That you go online, you buy it, and then we got to get them a sticker, then they have 30 days to put it on their trailer, right? Let me rephrase my question. How do you like this program? How do you think, is it good or bad? Is it something you would mind enforcing, having to manually run a plate?
Oh, absolutely. As far as the scanning thing, it's much simpler, obviously. And like I said, basically what they're doing now is they have to purchase it, they have to put it on the trailer where it belongs. It's not brain surgery, obviously, but a lot of people just cannot seem to do it correctly. And, you know, they issue a citation, you know, it's like I said, there's peak times of the year, it's hunting times where you get a lot of people going out on boats. Then you got the recreational time, obviously, where it's summertime. You know, you have 40, 50 of them down there at a time.
So you write a ticket, correct, if
That's
they don't have
correct.
it?
We do.
So in that instance, right, we could, this is just an idea, I don't know if you guys think this would work, but you could say 65 and older, parks are free.
Mm-hmm.
And if you write a ticket and they're 65 and older, then they didn't get their permit, you know?
Well, I mean, I think you could add something, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Councilwoman, sorry, but I think you could add something to the scanner, or you could add a different color. You could, I think we could specify, there's not a boatload of those, but there are a few.
Let me see if there's a component that we could add to scan your license. I don't know, there might be.
Well, I guess scanning the license plate, though, now the license plate would have to be an owner of 65 or over to get or they would be ticketed.
What do we do now? Do we issue them a sticker?
We issue them a sticker.
We do the same thing then. They just go with their sticker.
I know, but if they were going down to the boat launch, scanning license plates to see if they were paid.
I
If they
think
wasn't,
ultimately, I'm looking for a way to save them time.
I agree.
I
No,
don't
I'm
want
not-
them, I don't want them stuck scanning boat trailers for the rest of their career.
Well,
So if we buy one of these online, I think there should be a processing fee charged to have someone in our operation take a sticker, assign it to that purchase, mail it to these people. They have 30 days from the date of purchase to put it on their trailer. Day 31, you remind you scan it, they're out of violation.
That's correct.
Because otherwise, what's going to end up happening is they're just going around scanning boat trailers all day. That's the last thing we need, right?
That's correct.
I'm just trying to find a way. So if it's someone 65 and over, they come to town hall, they get a free sticker, they stick it on and move on, right?
When the councilwoman, when Kristen brought this up, I thought it looked good. I just didn't think of all the challenges at the time. So it's certainly something that we can continue to discuss, work on. You haven't seen it at all, have you?
No. And look, I agree that the cost is so minimal. You know, that there's launches around here where we spend $35 per launch. Now, the only challenge we got down there is, which we have zero control over, is the weather. Is the road condition to be able to get down there. So there are times where they cannot get down there. There will be inconvenience, but they usually call us. The majority of people call us, especially during the summer season. I will tell you, damn near on a daily basis, you know, is the road open? Can we get to it? And yes, so I think, you know, $20 a year, I think is utterly ridiculous. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I think that number should increase dramatically.
I also wonder, I know it's possible, if Chris could integrate something for the officers to log into and put whether the road is open or not, like yes or no, every day.
Absolutely. No, well, you,
Would
look,
that
I
be
mean,
something that you would want? So
Absolutely.
that way people could also check this as well as, so they're not calling y'all?
and look, we don't mind getting called, that's not an issue, it's really not a problem. The problem is, the way it fluctuates, we may tell them, yeah, that morning, it's
Right.
wide open, by noon, it's got 3 feet of water on it.
And you would be, you would have access to change this at any point?
Absolutely, and look, I'm totally ignorant when it comes to that, but I knew a southeast wind pushes water on the street, I knew that much.
You know I live right where you
know
put the
that
sign, so.
much. Exactly,
Yeah,
you
so
see me put the sign out.
Let me ask him, and if I can get him to integrate that into this process where it'll show as they're buying their, let's say they go to buy their sticker before they even leave the house. And then they're like, oh wait, is the road even open? Generally, they only buy the sticker once a year, but.
And look, when we're saying the sticker too, you're talking about, they got bar scans now, you put it on there, it's got a little, but you got some lines there to tell you if it's active or not, or whatever, and like say, if it's 65 or over, I'm sure there's a way, there should be a way, it's 2026, should be a way of telling you when we scan it, yeah, it's a retired person's vehicle, we've had cheesy things done where retired people own their boat trailers to their nephews or their grandkids, well, and look, there's nothing we can do with that. And I don't think that's really worth the fight, I really don't, but there's a lot of
Go to the drawing
benefits.
board with the 65 and older thing, and then just see if we can maybe include the sign. We see it, we see people come, they pull up, and they stop in front of it and wait. And then they call somebody, and they'll kind of do a loop around Mabel and come back to it and look, and I'm like, the sign's not moving, but, it
The
is a bummer.
sign says, road closed, residents only. Now, we've had some challenges in the past. I'm not really detailed about it, but we had 1 or 2 serious challenges with it. But, we put that sign up as a very last resort. If there's able to get down there, because there's some lower areas in there where some water does stand, but it's a couple inches high. So we open it, we want it open. There's a business down there we try to keep it open for. So every indication we can, if we got allowed to have it open, it's going to be open.
If we can make this more convenient for the person to buy the sticker, because again, if they don't buy it here at Town Hall, they have to buy it at Route 22. Route 22 at times have even been out of stickers. So, people couldn't buy it if they wanted to. So if we can make something that, if we can think of all of or as many of the obstacles that we can overcome and make it more convenient for the voter, let's do it.
At worst case scenario, we could say, look, if you're 65 and older, you do have to come in person to get your sticker.
Yeah,
And just so we can
exactly.
verify
And
your age. That's worst case scenario.
I'm
Yeah.
sure Ms. Boudreaux, I don't know that count, but I don't think it's that high of a count to where that would be an inconvenience for them to come in. You give them something for free. I think the least they can do is drive in and pick it up. I mean, I don't want to be so arrogant, but I think that's pretty, if they're able to go out in a boat and they're able to do that, they're able to stop it.
It's no different than what they have to do today.
Yes, sir.
Because they have to come in to get
There's
it.
nothing additional,
I
and
think what the ask should be is this is going to impact your department more than anybody.
absolutely. Well, us in the town hall.
It was introduced tonight on the surface, I think it's incredible.
Absolutely.
So give it some thought to how that may impact you and your department, and some things that you might want to see done differently, whatever. That's where when they're in the infancy of this design stage, it can save them time, right?
Absolutely.
We just don't want it to negatively impact you all.
Well, and also, I obviously want to meet with our clerk because it's going to affect her employees also. Being within the town, we don't want to make any additional workload on them if we can bypass that, obviously. So I'll get with Deidre, we'll sit down and talk to her and see.
Deidre, I don't want to swap the boat pedestal work for boat launch work, so we'll figure it out.
I'm going to stay quiet on that one, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You? I'm good? Thank you.
Any further discussion on that? Okay. Certainly, thank you very much for looking at that. Even, the initial thoughts are very good. And if it works, good. And certainly, but thank you for looking at that. One other thing on the agenda for tonight. So we certainly can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Councilwoman Faison. Second by Councilman Ogle. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.